Let's pray. Faithful God, may my words be your words. May the meditations of all our hearts be guided by you. O God, our help in ages past, present, and future. Amen. While growing up in my hometown church in Orrville, I had a lot of opportunities to go on a series of mission trips every summer. And every experience was incredibly unique and memorable for different reasons. And one trip in particular kind of sticks out as being more infamous. It was a trip that we took, I was in high school at this point, we took to the Camp Washington neighborhood of Cincinnati, an inner city part of that town, really, that's what came to mind. Anyway, so we stayed at Washington United Church of Christ down in that area, and they have a whole bunch of ministries. They're still down there doing a lot of work around their community. And so we stayed there, and the things that we did that particular week was incredibly diverse. We did a little bit of everything. One day we served at a soup kitchen. One day we cleared weeds off of a vacant lot. One day we helped clear out an abandoned house. One day we packed food packages to be delivered to area families. So we did a little bit of everything. But there was a tone to that week. There was just, among the group that went, there was just a grumpiness about us the whole week. It was always there, no matter what we did. And there were a couple factors that I think played into this. One was that it was a uniquely hot week. And that always affects the mood a little bit. There were some personality differences among some of the participants, as you might have in any group that goes on a trip like this. And we were staying in kind of some cramped quarters, which can make for some heightened tension from time to time. And there was also kind of this dashed expectations among some. By that point, in previous summers, we had gone to places like Boston. We had gone to places like Philadelphia. And in comparison, no offense, in comparison, Cincinnati, maybe particularly to Northeast Ohioans, is not as exotic as some of those other places might be. So there were a whole bunch of factors that just played into this grumpy attitude that kind of hung in the air all week long. And really, part of the problem, perhaps the root of the problem, out of all of those other things that we experienced, of all those other factors that played into the grumpiness of the week, were our expectations. We had expected a certain experience that perhaps would have featured a little more comfort, a little more fun, maybe a place that was a little more touristy. And because those expectations weren't being met, it contributed to this heightened anxiety, these dashed hopes for the week. And we missed out on what we could learn, the ways we could serve, how we were helping to make a difference and what we would carry back with us. We continue this summer through our series thinking about core values and what the core values of this church might be. And so last week we had the introduction to that, and now the rest of the summer, as we move through July and August, we'll be thinking a little more about particular possible values that we could claim for ourselves, or perhaps that we already do claim for ourselves in different ways. And so this morning, we'll think a little bit about mission. And really, mission is something that, as long as I'm here, you'll never get away from. And I would apologize for that, but I'd be lying. So, mission. We're going to talk about mission this morning. And there might be several things that come to mind, several definitions, several images that come to mind as we think about the word mission. For some, it might conjure images or definitions of someone, a designated person, going over there somewhere to serve on our behalf. Still a popular definition of mission. And every once in a while, if we're lucky, one of them might come back around and present pictures and artifacts from their experiences over there, which we have had here from time to time. So that's one possible definition of mission we may be working with. Another one that we might be working with is money. Sending money someplace. We take a special offering, we talk a little bit about where the offering is going, and off it goes, and maybe we hear something about it afterwards, and maybe not. But giving money, that is a popular definition of mission that perhaps we are working with. For some, we might think of mission in terms of someone else, maybe not me, but someone else going to do uncomfortable things in an uncomfortable place. I can never do that, some might say. No, thank you. But you all, good luck to you. You who are doing this and not me. Thank God. And for some, mission might conjure images of going off for a week, as we did to Cincinnati many years ago, going off for a week, doing a little bit of work, but also hopefully a lot of sightseeing. We might have these definitions among others, but we might also ask the question. It is an important question for local churches to ask. How might mission be done right here, where we are? Because most simply, mission could be thought of as meeting the needs around us in service. Most simply, that's what it is. Going forth and serving and meeting the needs that we can find around us, that we can tend to in some way. And so we might ask, what are the needs in our own backyard? And what could be our mission to them? This is Jesus. We have heard from Jesus this morning, concerned with his own backyard mission of sort. He has gathered 70 or 72 of his disciples, depending on which translation you use. He's gathered some of these disciples, and he's going to send them off 2 by 2 into neighboring areas where he eventually is going to end up himself. But he wants to send them forth first. And he has this very long list of instructions to give first. He says, among other things, don't take anything with you. No purse, no bag, no sandals, nothing. Just go. Just go into these places and don't take a lot of baggage with you. Second thing, go and find a place to stay. Go find lodging for yourself and bring peace with you to these possible places where you might be staying. In each house that is a possible place of lodging for you, say, peace to this house. And if they receive you, that is where you go. Don't move around, just stay put in the same place. Again, that's a lot of trust already. But there's more. Whatever they make for you to eat, whatever they provide for you in terms of food, in terms of lodging, accept it. Receive it as a gift. And this was significant, particularly the food instructions, because a lot of Jesus' followers would have had certain dietary restrictions, ritualistic dietary restrictions, seeking to be faithful to God in particular ways. And Jesus says, you know what? Put a hold on that. Don't worry about that. What I am sending you to do is more important. So whatever hospitality they provide for you, receive it. And receive it graciously. And so he sends them. And they go. And they have a particular purpose. They have a particular goal, a particular mission in which they are going to set out. They are told to go and to heal the sick and to proclaim the kingdom of God is among you. Go and proclaim this good news and go and embody this good news, Jesus says, because whoever receives you receives me. You are doing this work on my behalf. You are representing me to all whom you will encounter. As you serve, Jesus is saying, you are embodying me to others. And so they are sent, and they do as Jesus instructs. Now, at the very beginning of these instructions, before he even starts going down through the laundry list of what might ultimately, to many of us, be kind of intimidating, just go and find a place to stay and don't take anything with you. Before he even gets to that point, he starts off with a little farming metaphor. He says, the harvest is plentiful. The harvest is vast. There is this great big field of need out there. There is this great big field of people who are in need of some kind of good news. Whether it is physical, whether it is emotional, whether it is spiritual, but it is vast. The harvest is plentiful. But we have a problem. The laborers are few. Go off into this harvest, this plentiful, abundant harvest, as laborers, as representatives of me. Now, when I was in elementary school, I grew up around farms. Grew up in a farming area. And I can't tell you that I learned a tremendous amount about farming in those days. But I do know enough, I picked up enough to know at least a certain amount about how harvest time works. It seems as if the best way to harvest crops is to go out and get them. That's kind of conventional farming wisdom, right? The best way to harvest crops is to go out, to leave your house or to leave your barn and to bring the crops back. We all in agreement that that's the best way to do that? What doesn't work so well is to build a nice looking barn and then hope that the crops will eventually be attracted inside. Are we all in agreement that if you try to harvest crops that way, you're going to have a bad season? Going out to get the crops, way more effective, hoping people wander into the barn. Hoping crops wander into the barn. I gave it away, didn't I? You see how metaphor works now. Think about the video that we just watched. A guy wandering around the streets of New York. And we're not totally sure what he's doing at first. He's wandering around, and obviously he's talking to people. And for the most part, for the first minute or so, everyone is either ignoring him, or they're shaking their heads, or at one point he even gets pushed. Okay? But eventually we pick up on what he is doing. He is simply offering hugs. And eventually people begin taking him up on his offer. Just a hug, just the slightest moment of joy and love experienced between two people. Just the smallest brightening of someone else's day that could have made all the difference. Now, that's New York. Imagine even doing that in downtown Hartville. Imagine doing that in downtown Akron. Imagine doing that in downtown Cleveland. Just once. Just finding one other person. Hey, you want a hug? How uncomfortable would that be for some of us to do? To go out and to offer a hug to a complete stranger just one time. And yet, the possibility of brightening that other person's day even for a moment. You can't do that sitting in your room. You can't do that just sitting in the barn. So we might ask, what are the needs where we are? What are the needs in our communities? What are the needs in Uniontown, in Hartville, in North Canton, in Greene, in Springfield? What are the needs immediately around us that could use someone with the courage, with the willingness to step out and to serve? That is what mission is, asking and answering that question. And there are many possibilities already established. Possibilities like fish. Possibilities like the Hartville Migrant Ministry. A couple of us were there on Monday. You should ask us about that. Possibilities like the Canton Sunday Picnic. Possibilities that are so vast and so numerous, things that have already been established around us. And we might ask, even besides those, what resources do we have where we could go out ourselves and serve in different ways? What are the needs that we see that we can either immediately help with or that we could grow into helping with? And these sorts of questions might come with uncomfortable possibilities. As the chorus or one of the parts of the song says, get your hands dirty. This sort of work, dirt and sweat, it's an occupational hazard. And yet going out into the harvest to meet that need. That is what Jesus calls us to do. Even now, whoever receives you receives me. I am sending you out even now as my representatives to go and to serve. Now, there is another possibility. There's always another possibility. There is always the alternative. There is always the possibility to stay in the barn. There are needs here. We've got to keep up the building a certain amount. We've got programs we've got to take care of here. We've got a lot to worry about here in this place. So staying in the barn, it is an option. But if you do that, what are you really doing?